Good morning, class, and happy Wednesday. So today's lesson is talking about fractions. And what we're going to touch on is equivalent fractions, simplifying fractions, your simplest form, and then also arranging fractions in increasing or decreasing order. So with a fraction, remember that the top number represents your numerator. The bottom number represents your denominator. The denominator tells you how many units it takes to make it whole. The numerator tells you how many units that you actually have. So with 1/3, it takes 3 units to make this whole, and we have 1 shaded. So I drew a bar graph that represents 1/3. You have 1 shaded out of the 3 total. So 1/3. Bottom one, 2/6. Again, the denominator tells you how many units it takes to make it whole. So with our bar graph, you see we have 6 squares representing the 6 units. How many of those do we actually have? Well, we have 2. Our numerator tells you how many that you have, 2. So that's why you have 2 shaded. So 2/6 and 1/3. So again, with fractions, the top number is the numerator, tells you how many that you have. The bottom number is the denominator, tells you how many that makes it whole. So think of this like a cake. You have a small cake, 3 slices of the cake make it whole. You have 1 slice. So you have 1/3 of that cake. Think of a larger cake. 2/6. 6 slices make the cake whole. You have 2 of those slices, so 2/6. In these fractions, these are actually equivalent fractions as well. So look at this. You have 3 units make this whole. So you have 1, 2, 3. You have 1/3 of those units. Down here, you have 3 groups of 2. So here's a group of 2, here's a group of 2, here's a group of 2. So you have 3 groups of 2. How many of those groups do you actually have? Well, you have 1 group of those 2. So 1/3 and 2/6 are equivalent fractions. Another way that you know this is an equivalent fraction is when you can multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So what number would you multiply 1/3 by to give you 2/6? Well, 1 times 2 equals 2. So with equivalent fractions, if you multiply the numerator by that number, you also have to multiply the denominator. So if we multiply 1 by 2, gives us 2. Well, 3 times 2 gives you 6. So 1/3 is an equivalent fraction with 2/6. So if we move over to here, we have 4/5 equals what tenths? So what number do we have to multiply 5 by to get 10? Well, that number is 2. If you multiply 5 times 2, that gives you 10. And if you do that to the denominator, you also have to do that to your numerator. So 4 times 2 equals 8. So 4/5 equals 8/10, equivalent fraction. Next one, 1/6 equals what 24th? 6 times what gives you 24? Well, 6 times 4 equals 24. So if you multiply the 6 times 4, you also have to multiply the 1 times 4, and 1 times 4 equals 4. And with equivalent fractions, you can also divide by the same number. So if you notice, we have 8/12 here equals what 6? 12 is going to 6. It's becoming smaller, so you know you're dividing. Well, 12 divided by what gives you 6. And whatever number that is, you have to also do that to your top one. So 12 divided by 2 gives you 6. And if you do that to the denominator, you also have to do it to the numerator. So 8 divided by 2 gives you what? 4. So 4/6. So these are all equivalent fractions. Remember, with equivalent fractions, you can multiply or divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And this is how we go to simplest form. So let's continue to work this one out. We went from 8/12 to 4/6 divided by 2. Simplest form means that there is no longer a number that you can divide both by to get it any smaller. Well, is there another number that we can divide both the 4 and the 6 by? The answer is yes. We could divide by 2 again, right? So if we divide 4 by 2, that equals 2. And if we divide 6 by 2, that equals 3. 2/3. Is that our simplest form? Is there another number that you can divide 2 and 3 by? The answer is no. So 2/3 would be your simplest form. Okay, and now we're going to look at comparing. Let me move to this side. We're going to look at comparing fractions. Think again of a pie. Okay, 6 pieces make the pie whole. All right. Would you rather have 2 slices of the pie, or would you rather have 5 slices of the pie? Well, I would assume you're going to say 5. I know I would. So with fractions, when the denominator is the same number, you just arrange it in order by the numerator from smallest to biggest. Okay, so 2/6 is less than 5/6. And you can look at our bar graph that represents that. They're both 6 units make this square whole. This unit only has 2 shaded in. You only have 2. The numerator, this unit has 5 filled in, so you have 5. So that's why 5/6 is greater than 2/6. And if you look at it on the other side, so when your numerators are the same but not your denominators, you arrange by the opposite. So you arrange from biggest to smallest. So now think about it like this. 2/3. This unit has 3 squares make it whole. And you have 2 of those, leaving you with only 1 that you do not have. That's why 2/3 is represented as such. And then in this unit, you have 6 squares make it whole, and you only have 2 of those squares. So when your numerators are the same, how you arrange them in increasing order or decreasing order, again, whichever it is you rearrange. Whichever has the larger denominator is always going to be your smallest. Again, so look at your squares. Would you rather have, if your mom lets you play on your Xbox for, she gives you 3 hours, okay? So would you rather have 2 of those hours and share 1 with your brother? Well, yes, right? So that's why with fractions, when you have the same numerator, you're going to arrange them by your denominator. So the bigger the denominator, the smaller the unit. Hopefully this helps you as you work on your fractions. Some of you have already submitted your retake test. Hopefully you did well on it. If you have any other questions, just let me know. I hope y'all have a great rest of the day and the rest of the week. And interact on the board. Let's see some photos. Let's see some of the artwork that you're doing for Miss Stapp or that science experiment that I posted. I would love to see some more interaction. Thanks everybody for participating and turning in your assignments. If there's anything that I can do for you, just let me know. Have a great day, class.